searching for a heart of gold. You keep me searching and I'm growing old. Keep me searching for a heart of gold. I've been a miner for a heart of gold.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tracy Button. I had the pleasure of being married to my husband, Jim, for the past 25 years. My task today is to welcome you all here to the celebration of Jim's life. Thank you very much for coming and for making time in your day to remember Jim. Many of you in the audience have traveled from quite a distance to be here with us. That's quite a testimony to the types of friends that Jim collected. Seeing you all here together is a great pleasure for our family. I'm sure Jim is somewhere right now suffering from the worst case of FOMO you can possibly imagine. He really hated to miss a good party. Jim would have delighted in bringing you all together and would have spent his time connecting those of you who don't know one another to each other. That man sure knew how to work a room. Over the next couple of hours, I invite you to take a moment to introduce yourself to someone you have yet to meet and to find out a little bit about them. The world will be made better because of your efforts. It's important to me and my family that we take a moment to thank everyone involved in making today's celebration a reality. Jim asked a small but mighty group to lead today's efforts. We would like to thank Dave, Sarah, and Gary for everything they've done. You are all remarkable people, and we are so grateful. Today would not be possible without you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, unsurprisingly, there was a small army of friends, family, leagues, colleagues, businesses, artists, photographers, musicians, technicians, and organizations helping with every single aspect of today's celebration. Thank you all for your incredible generosity in making today a reality. We will all be able to rest a little easier after having a moment to remember our friend Jim and the impact he had on our lives. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Jim's dear friends, the talented visual artist Mandy Stobo, and today's Master of Ceremonies, the incomparable Dave Kelly.
She did it. She did it. Let's hear it for Tracy. Well done, Mom. That was so good. Thank you so much. Hi, Mandy. We ready?
I think so.
Okay. Jack, Amanda, you ready? Good. It's so great to be here. I was watching that, and I don't know if anyone else, but I wanted to text Jim and go, you won't believe the thing, and I was like, ugh. And that's how we all get to feel here today, and I'm so thrilled to be able to do this. And people have been gathering right here for thousands of years. And for thousands of years, people have come together to do one important thing, to sing, to tell stories, and to say goodbye, to grieve, and to remember. And Jim would always look for a way forward that included kindness and honesty. And so for that, we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. That includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Bakani, and the Kainai First Nations, as well as Tsuut'ina, Stoney Nakoda, and Chiniki First Nations, and Métis Region 3. As many of you know, Jim was sick for a while, so he was very involved in the planning of today. Oh, and I should mention, if you're watching, streaming online, everyone here got their own jacuzzi, but we're still glad you're here. And the door prizes are incredible. But Jim was part of planning today, and he and Tracy talked about that slideshow we just watched, and Jack and Amanda chose the music for that one and the music for the one we're going to see about halfway through our celebration today. Jim and Tracy talked about the people and the stories that they wanted to come up here so that you could hear those stories. He wanted you to hear Michael Bernard Fitzgerald sing you a song. And he wanted this whole part on stage to end with his good friend Fraser Abbott playing the bagpipes and leading us out into the lobby where we would all have a beer, village beer. But most of all, he wanted you to know how much he loved you. You guys, Trace, like, look out there. All these people are here just for you. That's why we're all here. It's amazing. And if you look around this room, you'll see Jim's collection of friends. And we come from everywhere, don't we? If you're looking, some of them you look moderately fit. And that might be the super jocks or the soccer teams. Some of the more erudite, artistic ones who are here for a good story or music, maybe they're here from Dave Kelly Live or Circle or Calgary Cares or the Eddies. And the snooty ones looking around surprised that Canada even goes this far west. Those are Jim's friends from Toronto, so let's welcome them. We do welcome you. We'll just talk slower so you understand. All of our good friend, Jim. Jim was born January 13th, 1964, the third of four boys, Hal, Dave, Jim, and Pat. Their parents, Byron and Barb, were both born in 1932. Barb died in 2010, and Byron died in 2017. Now, Jim's dad was in the military. And according to legend, Jim was conceived here in Calgary. I think we have a video. No. But he was born in Germany, moved to Italy, then Quebec, then Cold Lake, Alberta. And then when Jim was in grade 4, the family moved to Ottawa, where they stayed. Now, we'll get to when he came to Calgary, but we all know Jim's motto: live, love, laugh, family first. So let's start with family. Would you please welcome Jim's younger brother, Pat Button. Come on up here, Pat.
Wow! Dave Kelly, is this slow enough? Okay, I actually say I'm from Waterloo. Because you can't see anybody out there. Okay, so I was asked by Tracy to say a few words, which thank you very much, Tracy, on behalf of the four brothers. So I thought about it so much. How do I organize so many stories? Dave kind of helped, Sarah, coordinate that. We decided I'd talk about the early years, the years that were in that first video. Mostly because I was overwhelmed. Jim lived such a large life. He was everywhere. He meant something to everybody. He was a brother, a father, an uncle, a mentor, a savior to some. He was just a buddy to others, and he was a connector to everyone. So where do you go, right? What do you talk about? Well, you talk about yourself. So I'll talk about the stories that Jim was part of that made my journey the best journey. I've wrote down crying at the end, not at the beginning. Okay, so the most important part of the stories is if you knew Jim, he was a little boy in a grown-up body, right? Prankster, everything he did. So I'm gonna give you the boy within that adult that drove that sly grin that I loved for 59 years. As Dave mentioned, my parents were in the military. We were both born in Germany. Hal and Dave were 8 and 10 years older than Jim. And then we moved shortly thereafter to Sardinia, Italy, and we lived in an apartment right near the water. Parents said it might have been the best spot they were ever able to work from. But Jim and I, we were kind of oblivious to the fact that we're on this awesome beach in the middle of the Mediterranean, and we were just little deviants in development. So the first story speaks to just obviously how the inner workings of us began. Everybody's asleep, and this story, of course, I don't remember. It was told to me. But everybody's asleep, and Jim and I got out of our beds. I don't know how that worked, but yeah, we got out of our beds, and as 2- and 4-year-old deviants, we turned on the bath. So I don't know whether we thought we were gonna have a bath, but we didn't turn it off, is the key part here. So we moved into the kitchen, emptied everything out of the kitchen, throwing stuff around, apparently got the dozen eggs, because they didn't just float, they were on the wall, so we were throwing them. So apparently we were laughing in hysterics the whole time. Just having a great time like the 2- and 4-year-old bandits that clearly we were. And the part I hadn't told about the story was, since it's Italy, marble floors that went 12 inches up the wall. So 4 or 5 hours of this fun that we were having created a bit of a pool. So mom and dad and older brothers woke up to the noise of us hooting and hollering, thinking that, oh, geez, they got to get them to bed. They woke up early. They got out of their beds and sploosh into their brand new indoor pool. So each one of these stories kind of tells a lesson, mostly a lesson for me, but that lesson was that Jim was absolutely just joyful. We moved on to Bagotville. Bagotville is where basically our Stand By Me adventure started. So if anybody's seen the movie Stand By Me, that's basically our upbringing, a lot of trouble. Didn't see any dead people. No dead people. It started there. Friggin' cold, right? Northern Quebec. So all I remember is the winter. We had these massive drifts that would go 12 feet high in the backyard. And there'd be equally magnificent icicles that would grow off the back of the house. I guess they didn't have eaves troughs. So Jim and I, since we were allowed to wander aimlessly as Stand By Me proteges, we were kind of left to our own devices just to find fun. He's 6 years old, so I was safe, right? Like big brother. So I'm at the top of the snowdrift, which is really butted up against the house, pulling these massive icicles off, and I guess I fell, slid in to like nicely wedged, just like that poor girl, Jessica, I think it was, that got stuck in a well, but it didn't make CNN. All I remember is Jim, all of a sudden, I look up, kind of in panic. I don't remember this, but for sure that's how it would have gone. But what I do remember is Jim smiling and laughing and saying, oh, fun. So he knocked down more icicles, which probably almost skewered me, slid down beside me, and we played in our little ice cave for a couple more hours. Mom and Dad, for sure, wondering where'd they go. Hopefully Jim got spanked as the big brother, but the lesson there, and if anybody knows Jim, he was an outdoorsman, so I think that's his first adventure as an outdoorsman. We moved into Cold Lake, the Army brats that we were, and took the Stand By Me story to probably an Olympic level. And we had this spectacular valley behind us. And that valley, what we would do, it was explore. That's the best way to put it. So the exploring even would happen on the way to school. So you could cut into a valley for, I don't know, half a kilometer, and there was maybe 40-foot walls, and the trees on the upper side, I guess the roots were running through it. And Jim and I thought, oh my God, we're Spider-Man. So we would be running up the hill, jumping to one route to the next route, and of course in our minds we're Spider-Man like in New York City, but like the newer movies, you miss the odd one or it breaks and you tumble down to the bottom and you keep doing it, laughing the whole way because we were just boys, right? Being boys. In that valley in the winter, they had this tremendous creek. And again, what do you do when you're boys? You go sliding in the creek, push each other, play around and whatnot, and you kind of get oblivious to your surroundings. And what does the little brother do? Well, he falls in the creek and he goes down the water a little bit in massive danger, for sure. None of us realizing that. My hero big brother, of course, pulls me out of the water, saves me, and basically, I think probably our focus was on what are we going to do next beside me freeze. Oblivious to the danger that we averted. And to this day, one of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey. Yeah, the big brother George Bailey saved Harry. I didn't save a PT boat full of people, so I haven't lived up to what Jim did, but. It's still one of my favorite movies. So I'm going to move on. So, great story. We always talked about it. Same river in the summer. Excuse me. Am I allowed to cry? Valley, right behind there. Okay, so I'm back. There's the same river, summertime, probably around then. So in the summertime, we would go down to the river, same river, and there's a bunch of boys playing in the river, and it's got a pretty good flow to it, this river. I don't even know what it is, but there is a section of rapids that we were told never go there, blah, 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 blah. The older kids are, of course, going down the river. Jim and I don't know how to swim, but we want to go in. And one of the kids goes, it's easy. You just go in. Oh, we don't know how to swim. Yeah, well, that's okay. Under the bridge before the rapids, there's a bunch of nails, 9-inch nails, just like the band, that you go underneath, and you just have to grab them and pull yourself to shore. Without a pause, Jim's in. So, hey, I'm in too. Wait for me, big brother. We're floating, bobbing around, go down to the river. I can't believe we didn't skewer ourselves there also. We grab the nails, we pull ourselves to shore, we go, that was the best. And then the kid's handing us this white salt shaker. We're going, salt? He goes, what's that for? He points to our legs, and we're covered with leeches. You think we'd cry, you think we'd go, oh my God. No, stand by me. You salt it, you pull it off, and you go for another run. It's awesome. So that's kind of how we were living, and I think that fed into Jim as an adult. Older brother Dave, he had a motorcycle, so you can imagine us at our ages wanting to be a part of that. Dave was driving up and down the back hill, same thing, I don't know, 30 foot, 50 foot, whatever. More feet than he went is the story. So he offered Jim a ride, and he's going up the hill, because that's responsible too. And Jim fell off the bike flipped over. It didn't hit anybody, so nobody was hurt. And again, what does Jim do? He just laughs the whole way he's rolling down the hill. So Valley contributing to so much fun. One time, really raining in the back in the river. We're along the edge, and we got the boots and rain jackets, and no idea, no coming in. Didn't have Nintendo, didn't have Sega, none of those stuff. I like that stuff, by the way. But so we're playing in the mud, because that's what you do. Missed dinner because it's so late, but we're stuck in the mud. We'd played so much that we'd wedged their boots all the way as far as the boots would go. And the beginning of our negotiations, which I never really won, but I remember this one, smugly Jim had to get out and go tell Mom that we're stuck. So I just remember perfectly clean white tube socks, walking away into the darkness and up the hill. Mom came, pulled us out. It was all good. The best part was Mom would tell the story. Mom would tell the story is one of her favorites, because she saw the boyhood in us. So the lesson there, Jim loves to play. The next one's a bit dark. It's still in Cold Lake, but not just because it's in Cold Lake. The people in Alberta, Gary, understand that better than you. The story is that in summer in 1972 in Cold Lake, there are a lot of mosquitoes. And even though DDT has been outlawed in the rest of the world, they would have trucks go around and spray for DDT. Beautiful white clouds of fun. So as they came up the circle where we were, there'd be a bunch of kids already playing tag and pushing each other, gassing and wheezing and having so much fun. We would join them and run for blocks and blocks and blocks every week for 3 years in the summer. So, Jim and I talked about it. Probably, I had the minor league version of Jim. I played with cancer for a couple weeks, said I didn't like it, so it's gone. But Jim and I both always went, you never know. DDT, not good, right? So the lesson there, Jim was pragmatic. He never looked back at it because we both looked at that as one of our best stories. We remember having fun. The next story it's a couple of stories, but Jim was an entrepreneur, right? He's a connector, but he's an entrepreneur at heart, marketer. The early version of Jim, again, our lovely valley, this time it was less lovely. We'd get our 25-cent allowance, and to get to the only convenience store in that godforsaken place, it was across the valley. So a 30-minute walk to go spend my 25 cents on hopefully a wigwam and 2 pixie sticks if I got it, right? The whole time there, I'm just gassed up going, this is gonna be good candy. And Jim, he didn't like candy as much. Jim liked comic books. He was fascinated by comic books. And what did a comic book cost? Well, 50 cents. So the whole time Jim's working me, lobbying me, yeah, you'll be done the pixie sticks before you even get to the valley. Oh my God, the wigwam, blah, wigwam, this. Nobody knows what it is anymore. So every time I end up getting a comic book, and I walk out of there going, frig. And then the whole 30 minutes back, I go, Jim, why do you get to read it first? Why don't I get to read it? Why do you get to read it first? Jim would read the comic book first. So Jim was very good at negotiating. Shortly thereafter, we moved to Ottawa, and we had a family friend, Sam Boutros, who owned Captain Cook Pizzeria. So we basically, it was 3 cents a menu that would be delivered, tons of menus, and more than Jim and I certainly could deliver. So Jim decided to help a bunch of his friends make money. So he hired all of his friends. So this is great. The friends are ecstatic because they get to make 2 cents a menu. Jim took a 1 penny a menu management fee. That's right. Jim was an entrepreneur, that's for sure. A good negotiator too. Another story that I didn't have on the speech, so I apologize for the timing. Oh, yeah, see, that helped. So we decided that, and most of you probably figured out, we made the Jaws shirt. So the Jaws shirt is, Jim bought this magazine in Ottawa, and I remember when he bought it, and remember, because he started buying crack magazines because they were even weirder, and but he really loved this issue. Fast forward a number of years, Gord Downie, of course, great story with Gord Downie about his final tour and how inspiring that was, and Jim really took hold to that. And most of you, as you saw up front, Jim wore the Jaws shirt. So all the Going Nowhere guys and my son are wearing the Jaws shirt. Well, the Mad magazine, just because I got to stick it to Jim a little bit. And earlier today, I was telling a story. We told stories with the Going Nowhere crew. We were at Fernie this weekend celebrating Jim and doing a little bit of a tribute. And the stories, there were so many that I heard. I wish I could say them here, especially one, right, Brian? But it's inappropriate. A story I was telling Jill and Ryan when I was there earlier today was in London, Jim came to visit me. He was at University of Guelph. And Amy, I apologize, this will probably wreck the timing, but that's okay. So just hold on that one. We moved, he visited me, he was at University of Guelph, I was at Western, but we wanted to go visit my aunt and uncle in Mississauga. So my Aunt Jean and her daughter and lovely granddaughters are here. So Jim and I at McDonald's by the highway, getting ready to go. And of course we're debating, no, I'm a better hitchhiker. No, I'm a better hitchhiker. So what do? We do rock, scissors, paper. Jim wins, we decide to go separately. Jim goes first. Everything has to be a competition. He goes, about 20 minutes later, I finally get a ride and I'm going, man, I'm hooped. This is like an hour, 20-minute drive, so there's no way I'll catch him. He only got as far as Woodstock, Ontario. So I had been telling the story to the guy that was nice enough to drive me, and he goes, oh, there's your brother. Well, let's get him. I said, no. Let's just slow down. So I went, right? I'm gonna win because I'm the little brother. No, it never ends up that way because I get dropped off on Erin Mills Parkway. It's 4 kilometers away, but probably he won't get a ride there either. Everybody's going on the 401 somewhere. And I'm humping, I'm probably 2 kilometers away. And there's Jim. No way. So I'm already going, okay, he wins. But hey, he's my big brother. He's nice. He had the guy pull over. Father and a son going to the Blue Jays game, decided to go take Jim all the way right to my aunt's place. I go, Jim, yeah, I'm really hot and tired. And he takes off. Right? So Jim was at the most a prankster. Okay, so those are some of the stories I wanted to share. I did want to talk a bit about brothers. This is one of our first Button Brothers tournament. We've got a great trophy my dad made. I don't know how many years we did it. I'm not on it enough, so we stopped tracking. But the four brothers are tight, and we've got an impenetrable bond. And to be quite honest, Jim, well, he was our glue. He was the super glue for us. He was the best of us. We always knew that. We didn't say it to him, of course, because we're brothers. We did worse. We called him our little sister because he was the slightest of us. And he, of course, none of us had empathy. He had all of our empathy in one, and the soft skills and whatnot. I think in his post, he even called us Neanderthals. Nice, Jim, nice. Yeah, so we're tight. So Hal and Jim and Dave, cheers. I, on the other hand, was the wild card. Certainly the going nowhere guys know most of the stories. Jim kept me out of trouble a lot of times. Didn't keep me out of jail enough times. He guided me. He protected me. I'm going to miss my God, my brother, and my best friend. I love you all.
It was beautiful. Thank you very much, Pat. Isn't that great? He said, Dave, I know it's supposed to be 5. Mine might be 7 minutes. It just might be 7. Nailed it. Nailed it. It's perfect. It's perfect. Where else are we going to go? Where else would any of us rather be than right here today? So I am just fine. After high school, Jimmy went to the University of Guelph, graduated, worked mostly in Toronto until 1993 when he moved permanently to Calgary. But it was grade 4 where he landed in Ottawa, and that's where he met his great friend, Gary Tate. Now that means, other than his brothers, Gary is the only one in this room who can say they've known Jim since he was figuring out cursive writing. Would you please welcome to the microphone his good friend, Gary Tate. Come on up, Gary.
Whew. Well, good. It's good that you can't really see out there. Vast. Jim asked me to say a few words, but now I know why. After Pat's speech, I'm going to make Jim sound really good. Wasn't sure why he wanted me to be here, because, but now I do. Thanks, Pat. Jim has always been there for me, standing in the wings, offering his support, laughing and encouraging me, and smiling. Jim would always give you his opinion, whether you asked for it or not. We promised to be friends till the end. We pushed the envelope. We saw the whole picture, Alpha and Omega. We thought of life as a whole. Jim and I talked about everything. We competed, we bet, we planned. We even talked about this day, believe it or not. We would bet who would have more people at their funeral. Yeah, it's true. And looking out here and not counting the online people, most people would give up, but not I. Not I, said the wolf. Not I. This day just shows me that I have to work at being better. But he's definitely left me a good blueprint to follow, so I may join a few more clubs and be less about me. I met Jim in 1974. We grew up in the 60s and the 70s, a time when political incorrectness and conversion therapy were a thing. Jim was this really skinny, scrawny, pasty-looking kid who looked anemic, and he also looked like he could catch scurvy at any time. I was convinced I could beat him up. He had a healthy diet of no-named puffed wheat cereal, not the real crispy crunch, crispy sugar crisp stuff, but the fake stuff. And also for lunch every day, he had shoestring French fries frozen. We did them in the toaster oven with lots of salt. That's his diet. We quickly became friends, and he invited me back to his home. He loved coming to my house because we had all the junk food that you could ever dream of. We had TV dinners, frozen TV dinners, that's a thing, frozen pizza, and we also had the sugary breakfast cereals. On a big outing with the Tate family, he would be invited to come with us to Ponderosa Steakhouse. So Jim would be the little white kids jammed in the booth with the black family. I often wondered how many people were staring at us or if he ever noticed all the glares and stuff, but he didn't care. Jim was just this engulfing beacon of love. We went to the really cool public school called Christie Public School, where the principal looked like the dad from the Brady Bunch. It was true, he looked just like the dad. So his name was Mr. Maxwell. We meet at the school, since he's my only friend and we're friends, we meet this young overachiever named Al Carpenter. Al had a corduroy jean jacket with patches on his back, like soccer champion, football champion, something also called the Award of Excellence. Jim and I only had bronze patches. And we definitely didn't put them on our jacket. But we made a pact to compete and maybe go for gold that year. We got silver. Next, we meet this other overweight kid named Tony Festeriga. Tony Festeriga was bleach blonde. He had a hearing aid. It was in the middle in those days. He had wires coming out. It would make squeaky sounds. And from the back, it looked like a bra. I wasn't sure whether Tony was a boy or a girl, but Jim said, "Hey, Gare, we should make friends with the new kid." So Tony made this young guy feel welcome and appreciated. I soon learned that Jim could see souls. He could see the goodness in people, and that was his strength. Even though he looked like Damien, he was he's a really good soul. You remember that, Damien? Yeah. Soon after that, we go to middle school, and we meet Mark Burbage, who is even smaller than us. Mark was like 74 pounds. And we meet Garth Collier, who had to be home before the streetlights came on. I also wanted to mention Mark lost his daughter a week ago, and I know that Jim would want us to remember Camille Burbage Esquerdo. So I just wanted to keep her in our prayers and thoughts as well. Well, time for high school now. So we start high school. So this is the plan. I was lucky to have Jim give me all the information I needed. So it was time for high school. So Jim suggested that we do a lot of sports, Gare. Let's do some sports. We'll hang out in the gym wing, and let's also take typing. At the time, guys didn't take typing back then. It was a girls' course, but Jim said, in the future, it's just going to be computers and keyboards, Gare, so we're going to have to learn this stuff. Like, how did he know? But how lucky am I? So we did the typing, and yeah, that was good for us back then. Well, we got cut from every team in grade 9. And unfortunately, we still hadn't grown. Girls would see us in the hallway. Oh my God, you're so cute. Do you go here? They try to pick us up. So it really, we really knew that we weren't going to be getting any girlfriends. So we focused on just, school. We lived in Ottawa, but we were boarding on a upper middle class neighborhood called Nepean. And back in our day, kids from Nepean didn't hang out with Ottawa kids and vice versa. But Jim, being Jim, suggested we cross the border and make friends with some of these new kids. So we met Keith and Graham. I should have known then that he was gathering friends, but I didn't really clue in. Shortly thereafter, we were having our annual Grey Cup game, tackle football game every year, so it became a thing. The Guelph lads were no different. I found Jim would have a sales talk or a sales pitch every time he's bringing in friends to the group, and he would talk about the Guelph lads who are all here. They all had nicknames: Skinny, Creepy, Dull Boy. I didn't have a nickname, but he said, Gary, you're gonna need a nickname. So these are great lads as well. I knew that they were all special, so I could see that Jim had this ability to connect people, and they were all good souls. Many are called, but few are chosen. Jim became my barometer for good friendships, and as people in my life came and go, he would always be there. Even though we're all sad today and grieving, Jim would want us to accept what is happening and keep moving forward, keep standing and be happy. Smile and not waste any of this precious time, all the while creating amazing moments, memories, and experiences. So many of us get busy with our lives and forget to invite the people who make life special back for more. The best lesson I've learned from Jim is, if you want a good friend, you have to be a good friend. Live, love, laugh, repeat. Thank you for listening.
After hearing those two, it kind of makes you want to see if Toronto's good anyway. Who knows? It might be. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So one of the things that Jim built was community. And a lot of times when Jim built community, he liked to involve music. Michael Bernard Fitzgerald was one of the many musicians that Jim got to know. And Michael was a friend of Jim and Tracy's. He also gave them some cool younger cred when he'd come over for supper when Jack and Amanda were there. And so he's going to sing for us now. Would you please welcome Michael Bernard Fitzgerald.
I do wish today that someone would just take us through all the nicknames that Jim created for the various groups he was part of. I don't think we could actually show them all on the screen. I seem to remember that Jim's Guelph nickname is definitely one of the ones you can't show on the screen. I think it had to do with the dirt bike.
Where I go, will you follow? Where I go, will you follow me? Will you follow? Will you follow me? Backpacks and I will travel. Never been so good at a fixed life. Will you follow? Will you follow? The road's alive, yeah. we leave town tonight. Hold on, my darling, hold on, my sweetheart. Even when we go, babe, I'm gonna use my heart. So follow me, my darling, follow me, my sweetheart. Even when we go, babe, follow my heart. Confidence comes and it goes. Raindrops down the window pane. Will you follow? Will you follow me? The road's alive. We leave town tonight. Hold on, my darling, hold on, my sweetheart. And when we go, babe, I'm gonna use my heart. So follow me, my darling, follow me, my sweetheart. And when we go, babe, follow my heart. Hold on, my darling, hold on, my sweetheart. Even when we go, babe, I'm gonna use my heart. So follow me, my darling, follow me, my sweetheart. Even when we go, babe, follow my heart. Even when we go, babe, follow my heart. Even when we go, babe, follow my heart.
Thank you so much, Michael. Well, I talked about Jim moving here in 1993, and one of his favorite stories to talk about moving here was that 2 days after he moved here, he met Tracy. And 4 years later, on August 30th, 1997, they were married. 6 years later, 1999, their son, Jack, was born. And 2 years after that, in 2001, Amanda arrived. And if you ask Jim for his favorite words in the English language, he wouldn't even have to think about it. One would be Jack, and the other would be Amanda. Let's welcome Jim and Tracy's kids to the stage.
That was beautiful, Michael. Thank you so much. First off, we would like to start by saying thank you to everyone who is here today and everyone who wanted to but couldn't make it, especially those watching from afar. We are incredibly lucky to be surrounded by such an amazing community of people who loved our dad and our family.
He was a collector of friends, and we are honored to have so many of them celebrating alongside us. The support that everyone has provided is overwhelmingly kind and has helped ease this experience immensely. We are forever grateful for all of the love that we've been shown.
Our dad was an incredibly wise man. Our mom often says he lived 5 lifetimes in 59 years. He used his gift of wisdom, along with his incredible sense of humor, to guide not only our family, but our community through his cancer journey. During his stay in hospice, he was very intentional about the conversations we had and gave us time to ask important questions that allowed us to feel at peace, having no regrets, and knowing we got the most out of every single second that we had together. I kept a running list throughout the last few months of good nuggets of Jim wisdom, and the list goes:
Life is simple, don't overcomplicate it.
follow the energy,
Do the little things for those you love.
be kind to others,
Remember people's names and don't be afraid to use them.
get out and do.
Find joy in simple things.
It all starts with mindset.
And time is the only commodity that matters.
On the day I was born, both my mom and I had serious complications. I've always hated leaving places. Before going to the hospital, my parents had a discussion, and they decided that in case of an emergency, my dad was to come with me. We spent the first 24 hours of my life laying skin to skin in the NICU until I could be returned to my mom. When we all reunited, my dad turned to my mom and said, "I just realized I've been waiting my entire life to be a father." The importance of family has been exemplified strongly throughout our entire lives, and we truly won the lottery with the family we were blessed with.
We are here to celebrate our father, but we also strongly believe that we need to celebrate our mother as well. Her commitment to taking care of our family and our father goes unmatched. She's gone above and beyond as a caregiver and deserves to be recognized for everything she's done behind the scenes. Mom, you've been on call for 7 years. Waking up at all hours of the night to drive to Emerge, you've gone to hundreds of appointments, tests and procedures, and accommodated all of the crazy diets that Dad's had to try, all while maintaining our household, cooking amazing meals for us every day, and keeping us on track with school and life in general. You've even picked the seeds off of Dad's strawberries.
Your relationship has set such an amazing example of what a true partnership should be, and we can only aspire to have a partner like you in our lifetime. When you said, "in sickness and in health," you really meant it. You showed how deeply you care, how capable you are, and your unmatched resiliency. Mom, you're the reason we are still in one piece today, and you truly are our superwoman. We love you so much.
Having Jim Button as a father was a gift that only the two of us have had the pleasure of.
That we know of.
And we will never take it for granted. Although his life was cut a little short, we feel so incredibly lucky to have been loved and raised by the most honorable, kind, and goofy man, and we wouldn't change anything for the world. The love that he showed us is enough to last 10 lifetimes. It would be difficult to find a man that loved people as much as Jim. His joy in life came from human interaction. He was blessed with the gift of the gab and had a heart big enough to fit the whole world. Although he may not be with us physically, his energy will carry on in many ways. Whether it is a sound, a feeling, or a memory, he lives on in all of us.
If you ever find yourself thinking of Jim, Amanda, Tracy, and I urge you to take a moment and smell the roses, as he was a man who lived in the moment and was incredibly gracious for the little joys in life. In true Jim Button fashion, I'd like to raise a glass to honor and celebrate a life that was truly lived to the fullest. Cheers, Dad.
Cheers.
This one's for you.
First thing we climb a tree.
This is our life. And that's where the hornet stung me. And I had a feverish dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. Stare in the morning shroud, and then the day began. I tilted your cloud, you tilted my hand. Rain falls in real time, the rain fell through the night. No dress rehearsal, this is our life. But that's when the hornet stung me. And I had a serious dream with revenge and doubt. Tonight we smoke them out. You are ahead by a century. 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 And disappointing you's getting me down.
Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom and pa, not the way that I do love you.
Well, holy moly, me oh my, you're the apple of my eye. Girl, I never loved one like you.
Man, oh man, you're my best friend. I scream it too. There's nothing there ain't nothing that I need.
Well, hot and heavy pumpkin pie, chocolate candy, Jesus Christ, ain't nothing please me more than you.
Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you. Let me come home. Home is wherever I'm with you.
Good work on the music, Jack and Amanda. Great speech, too. Can we hear it for those kids? One of the communities that we want to live on is the Jim Button Community Builder Fund. A lot of folks have sent notes to all of us and said, hey, if we wanted to contribute flowers or what do we do, what can we do? Well, Dan Evans from Evans Hunt, along with the folks at Village Brewery and DKL, had this brainwave. It was mostly Dan's, but we want to take as much credit as we can. Which is, what if we put some money together and try to get a big enough pool that there'd be interest every year, and Tracy would get to recognize someone and award someone who is building community in Calgary. Somebody who has a spirit of Jim, of bringing people together in some way that makes our city better. So if you'd like to donate, please do, and it's easy to find. Just Google Jim Button Fund and you'll find it. Many of us also know Jim from another community called Village Beer, which, although they are makers of delicious and refreshing drinks, including their latest line of non-alcoholic beer. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Village Brewery was always about building one thing, a village. A few years ago, Village announced Jeff Popeil as their new president to help continue that charge, and Jim wanted Jeff to come up here and talk a bit about the insights into business that Jim passed on. Let's welcome Jeff Popeil.
Good afternoon. Today is Monday, and for the last 2 years, Mondays have been my favorite day of the week. Every Monday since I started working at Village Brewery, I would walk with Jim. And over the 110 weeks I've worked at Village, we've only missed a handful or two of our Monday meetups. So I'm gonna say I've had the pleasure of 99 walks with Jim. That's about 500 kilometers of listening, connecting, laughing, and sharing stories. About 620,000 steps alongside one of the most giving, kind, and inspirational people I've ever met. Jim was a visionary entrepreneur, and Village Brewery was one of his proudest achievements. And since I was the new president at Village, you'd think we talk a lot about business on our walks, but we didn't. At first, I thought it was just Jim being respectful of me as a new leader and giving me the space to spread my own wings. But later he told me he just didn't want to screw up his disability insurance or else Tracy would kill him. Every walk with Jim was a gift, and they all started the same way. I would show up at 8:59 a.m., park in front of house number 435. As I would step up to his front door, and before I could ring the bell, it would open. He was fully dressed, ready and waiting for me with a big grin on his face. I'd say, "How are you feeling today, buddy?" Like $1 million, he'd say, every time, regardless of how he was actually feeling. Jim never complained. Not one time did he ever feel sorry for himself. Most people don't know that Jim lived with constant pain for a long time because he would never make a big deal about it or even acknowledge it was there. Never. Well, actually, that's not completely true. There was this one time last spring, around the time the whole world was talking about Russia invading Ukraine. On that morning walk, I asked Jim my customary, "How are you feeling today, buddy?" And whether it was my question or the pain level he was dealing with that day, he replied in frustration, "Like $1 million fucking rubles." We both paused, then looked at each other, and then we both started to laugh. For months after that walk, every time I'd ask him, he'd give me the same answer prefaced with a big grin, like $1 million fucking rubles. No matter what the adversity, Jim had an unfailing positive outlook. When Jim went into hospice in November, he emailed a final goodbye note with the news to a group of his friends. I remember getting the email while I was working in my office and feeling almost in disbelief as I read the update. He signed off with, "I love you all." It was finally coming, the end. I didn't know what to feel or think. I looked back at the page, and there was a postscript. P.S. it said, and I apologize in advance if I end up in hospice for another 6 years. Even in the darkest, heaviest of times, Jim never lost his sense of humor. It's like he knew what all of us needed to hear in that email. On another walk, I discovered Jim's vacation to visit his kids down east would overlap with a business trip I had coming up in Toronto, so we decided to meet for dinner. 2 weeks later, there we were, in a restaurant off Queen Street in Toronto. What a treat. Fantastic food, Jim even cheated on his diet, and a great night of conversation. Over dinner, I mentioned to Jim that I heard a mutual acquaintance of ours had been awarded the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal, and that remark made Jim look a little bit uncomfortable. What? I said. Nothing. Come on, what? He stared at me. All right, I'll tell you. I won one too. What? You won a Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal? I was shocked at how casually he just blurted it out. Yeah, he said, they told me a few months ago, and I'm supposed to be receiving it tonight with the other recipients back home. Tonight? And you're having dinner with me? It was mind-blowing that we had walked weekly for months and Jim hadn't mentioned it. To Jim, telling me he had won a prestigious award, crowning his life work of community building, wasn't as important as asking me how my daughter did in her ringette tournament over the weekend, or if I was making enough time for my wife Holly in our busy lives. Another time we went for a walk, Jim told me the story that started almost 10 years ago. Back then, Jim and his partners sat around an old card table, over many a night imagining their plans for what would one day become Village Brewery. The wobbly four legs and wooden top eventually became Village's first makeshift boardroom table, the place our founders would navigate the entrepreneurial obstacles that come with all startups, the place they would create a community building vision for their brewery, and the place where the very first clink of 7 beer bottles echoed off our walls, celebrating the success of realizing their dream of building a local craft brewery. Many years later, as new breweries would open in Calgary, Jim would loan the card table to the new entrepreneurs as a welcome to the industry, as a physical symbol that others before them had gone through the same hardship that they might be going through, and as a reminder that it would all be okay and that Village would be there for them if ever they needed support. The loan of the table had only one proviso, that when a new brewery would open in Calgary, the table would be signed by its current holder and passed along to continue the chain. Today, the card table has 12 signatures on it from many of Calgary's finest breweries. I mentioned earlier that Jim and I never talked about business. No, we didn't. We never talked about competition. We definitely never talked about spreadsheets. But everything I needed to know about business, about competition, about collaboration, about building community, I learned in one story about a card table. When someone knows they have a finite number of days left in their life, time is an incredible gift. So after 99 walks with Jim, I find myself here. I've been thinking a lot about the time I spent with Jim and what it all means. Jim is a North Star. By living the way he did and touching our hearts in the way he did, he made his walk through life count. And the road is short. We need to make our walks count. We will all leave here today and walk to our cars, and then walk into our homes, and tomorrow we will take more steps. Some of those steps will be to chase our dreams, some of those steps might be to help others, and some of those steps might even be to take our kids to ringette. And Jim taught me all are equally important. I'm sure the world won't see another Jim Button anytime soon, but may the lessons he taught us be a legacy that live in our hearts forever. Thank you.
So, the spring of 2016, Jim's cancer scare turned into a terminal diagnosis, and the circles of Jim all vibrated with the news. All of us feeling, what? Of shock and the no of sadness. All of us, except Jim. Jim might have felt those things, but amazingly, heroically, quickly, he went from what to what now to I'm going this way. And along that way, one of Jim's friends from his marketing and branding life suddenly found herself joining the Cancer Club with Jim. And to talk a bit about that, would you please welcome Jim's great friend, Sarah Geddes. Come on up, Sarah.
I've been making fun of the boys over the last month about how much they've been crying, and now I'm the one that's a sopping mess. Anyways, as David mentioned, Jim and I have shared a few journeys together. Like many in this room, my first introduction to him and his magic was as a marketer and a community builder. I consider myself extremely lucky to have crossed his path so early in my career and to have been mentored by him through the years. All that said, that was just our beginning, and our friendship morphed well beyond those initial interactions. When I was diagnosed with cancer 5 years ago, Jim was one of the first people I called. I was confused, scared, freaking out, and I wasn't sure what to do. And Jim basically held what I can only equate to a cancer initiation ceremony. He told me in no uncertain terms that cancer is a club you join, but it's not one that you're ever allowed to leave, which I didn't love. I fought him hard on that. I was convinced I would kick cancer to the curb, I would do it and move on, and then prove some sort of inner strength. But Jim knew better. He'd been there. And now I know what he actually meant. You can kick the diagnosis, but you can never kick the responsibility of giving back to others facing the same situation. With Jim, it didn't matter what hardship you faced. It could be cancer, another medical diagnosis, or just a plain bad day. The one thing I suspect all of us in this room have in common is that after a bit of time with Jim, everything just felt better. It was light. He magically made darkness and tough times disappear. It's going to be a really big void for all of us to fill. I've caught myself texting and calling him multiple times over the last few weeks out of habit. He was our person, and as empty as it feels, I know Jim would want us to focus on what we have gained from our friendship with him versus what we've lost. There are many practical medical lessons I learned from Jim, like make the nurses your best friend, they control the drugs, they control everything. That was definitely a very good lesson. Never go to an appointment on your own because you won't remember anything past the first few minutes. And he always gave kudos to Tracy for bringing her notepad and keeping track of everything. And he also made it really clear that your mental health is equally or even more important than your physical health. You can't have one without the other. There's no question that Jim helped keep me alive through a very difficult time. But more importantly, he taught me how to live. I'd like to share a few of those life lessons with you now. Prioritize those that matter. In Jim's own words, his most cherished collection was his family and friends. The rest of it to him was noise. He encouraged me to learn to say no to things that open up time for me to spend with those that matter most. In today's ceremony program, you received a stamped postcard. In Jim's honor, we'd like to ask that you send a note to someone you've been meaning to reach out to but just haven't had the time. Just say hi, or I love you, or whatever you have to say, but do it in Jim's honor. It would be really grateful. Doers do, they just do. Stop asking how you can help, just do it. If something bothers you, do something about it. If you want to give back to someone or something, just give. Don't wait for an invitation that isn't going to come. Get off your keyboard and into the real world and impact change. Jim was brilliant at this. He sparked change just because it needed to happen, and he didn't think twice about what other people would think. He would just state what he was going to do without waiting for permission. Say what you need to say. Life is short. None of us know when our time might come to an end. Jim said what needed to be said, and he never held back. Through the past few months, I've witnessed some of the most beautiful moments of friendship as Jim normalized love and vulnerability with his friends. We've now nicknamed Gary Davies Care Bear because he learned to love out loud. Emails from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen are now all signed with "I love you, man," or something to that extent. That is Jim personified. He loved and he created love. Release the people and things in your life that take more than they give. Lastly, this is a real lesson for all of us to pay attention to. If someone or something no longer serves you, let it go. This is one of the last lessons Jim had to learn himself and that he shared with me. Protect what matters most and funnel all your energy into that. Do not let other things or people take that away from you. A few days before Jim left us, he asked that I come to see him one final time at hospice as he had a few things he wanted me to know. In his words, I need a final download. That was always his code for "this is important and I need to be real without scaring anyone else." I ran from a meeting and went straight there, knowing my final minutes with him were upon me. I'll never forget that visit, nor take for granted how fortunate I am to have been blessed with such a friendship. This is how the conversation went. "Jim, I need you to know you've been as much of a teacher to me as I've been to you, but I'm officially passing the torch. You need to take care of everyone. I can't do it anymore, and I need to know they're going to be okay." He wasn't just referring to those struggling with cancer, but also to Tracy, Jack, Amanda, his closest friends, and anyone who else feels lost. He was vulnerable and scared and wanted me to know it's okay to feel that way, a lesson I knew I've yet to master. My mentor always delivers, and he was always thinking of everyone else first. It was a very deep discussion, but in true Jim style, he cut the intensity with moments of humor. Me, "I promise, Jim, but what's that cut on your arm from?" Him, "Oh shit, literally shit. I fell trying to shit." That's why I know it's time to go. I literally can't shit without help anymore. We laughed and then we cried. He spoke about how selfless the staff at the Rosedale Hospice were, how they changed his life and gave him the farewell he so desperately wanted with his family. He described what he was going through as he had done the entirety of his journey, so I would be prepared when my time comes, and it was beautiful. And then he reverted to ass talk. In his words, "If you can no longer wipe your own ass, that's a sign, and I wanted to say goodbye to you." So when faced with shitty situations in the future, we should all ask ourselves, what would Jim do? And then we should do that. If we each carry 1 ounce of Jim's spirit into the world, it will truly be a better place. I love you, Unicorn. And I promise I'll make all my moments matter and make you proud. How blessed are we to have been blessed with the friendship of Jim Button.
Jim was so proud of his family. He's so proud of this city, proud of this country, even the eastern parts. But he was. I've been lucky to have spent some great moments with Jim on stage, at events, on walks, in a tub, in an MRI machine, and hanging out in hospice. I was visiting Jim with Gary Davies a few weeks before he died. Now, there's a few things you need to know about Gary Davies. He's a business guy. He runs companies. He runs board meetings. And I can tell you, when he runs a board meeting, there's no one's job at the end of the board meeting to give everyone a hug. That doesn't happen. So there we were in the hospice with Jimmy. And when Gary got up to go, Jim said, "I love you, Gary." And Gary said, "Thanks." And he turned to leave the room. "I love you, Gary," said Jim. And Gary said, "I know." And as Gary started to leave again, Jim said, "Gary, you can't leave until you say I love you." And Gary half laughed, half cried, and then just cried. And he said, okay, I love you too, Jim." And Jimmy was proud of that. Jimmy did a lot of business, a lot of marketing, a lot of meetings, a lot of community, but he knew what mattered. He knew what it was at the heart of everything was love. And it was that love that drove Jim to write his final blog post. Those of you that saw that, huh? And I know on your program it says that I have the final words. I lied. Because Jimmy spent a lot of time writing that final blog. He wrote it knowing it was for the day he died. He also wrote it knowing this day would come, when all of us would be here and all of us watching. And he wanted to give one more gift for all of you. So he asked my brother to come to his house with an audio recorder. He got his friend Dave to do some music. He got Mandy to do some art, because he wanted this moment, these next 10 minutes, right now, to be one more time when we could all gather with Jim.
Well, that was one hell of a ride. I'm pretty sure Hunter S. Thompson would gleefully pat me on the back for following his edict. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." From the moment I found out I have terminal cancer, I've understood that I live a full life. A life with few regrets, a ridiculous amount of adventure, and an equal amount of love, gratitude, and friendships galore. So I've never been afraid of this day, nor should you of yours. It's actually that simple. Live, love, laugh, repeat. Or, as my mom said to me on her deathbed, be nice to others, laugh every day, and most importantly, remember life's pretty simple, so don't overcomplicate it. My mom was pretty smart. Live, love, laugh, repeat. I got lucky in life. Well, I felt lucky. But I'm pretty sure karma had something to do with it along the way. You get back tenfold what you put out in terms of goodness. But it still felt lucky all the way along. I was born into a family that believes the same motto our family presently holds, which was family first. My parents, albeit completely different people in almost every imaginable way, were able to raise 4 lads that loved each other like no other. Our mutual respect is as deep as Marianas Trench. Our brothers have done anything and everything we needed, and that's just not as it relates to my health situation. It's been like that from the beginning. Ours is an unbreakable bond. So, as much of who I am came from this family unit, and I consider myself the luckiest gal in the group. They always call me the girl in the family because they're all Neanderthals, and I could navigate the emotional side of our family angst. Each of my brothers married up, in quality, and as a result, the nieces and nephews and their children are all incredibly beautiful human beings, each so unique, yet each possessing a family first, yet, let's start with sarcasm first gene. Our family gatherings consist of a lot of noise, competition, and laughter, all baked in a pile of mutual love and respect. This family machine has been such an incredible gift for my kids. There's absolutely no doubt that Jack and Amanda and Tracy will always be surrounded by a loving, supportive family, including the incredible family I also married into. When you marry someone like Tracy, who is without a doubt the most capable human being on the planet, you have to wonder how someone can be so smart, so talented, so creative, so kind, so funny, and so incredibly tenacious. She can do anything. And I'm pretty sure it all started with her parents and was enhanced by our great sister who married an awesome lad I'm happy to call a brother-in-law. Tracy's family is kind and generous, while also highly dynamic and operating at a seriously high level. They welcomed me into the family in 1993, and I've considered them friends and family ever since. Live, love, laugh, repeat, family first. Over the last 55 years, I've collected the most incredible and unique assortment of friends. Some people collect Star Wars figures, others collect beer cans. Some collect stamps. Well, I collect people. I've been collecting my whole life. And while that's not something Guinness Book of Records could, would, or even should measure, it's something that has been in my soul since day one. It's been one of my greatest gifts along the way. I love my friends. I love them so very much that I make every effort to stay in touch and be as connected as possible. Outside my family, my friends are my greatest joy. While it can be a lot of work to keep dragging their asses out to get together, I know the outcome has been worth it, because I make that a priority. There's been a steady flow of incredible energy back and forth from every single corner of my life. When you love deeply and give fully, the respect, followed by the chuckles and adventure, are all you need to make your day complete. Live, love, laugh, repeat, family first, collect and nurture deep friendships. In my lifelong habit of prioritizing family and friendships, I've also chosen careers and projects that put everything else before money. Money never motivated me, except as a means to provide for my family and to obtain more experiences with those that I share a bond. Instead, I feel like I've led a life of purpose. And in large part, I really doubled down on certain projects, companies, and people that are also driven by purpose. And to be honest, a lot of this drive showed up when I met Tracy and we had children. I've been so incredibly fortunate to have realized how much more you get back when you give freely of your time and effort. By making your community stronger, you in turn make yourself better and happier. And if you get sick, then watch out. Those people turn everything around and make sure you realize it was all worth it. As a parent, you want to teach your kids the important things in life, the really important things. It truly becomes a mission and a beautiful teaching experience for my kids, as they've seen what happens when you genuinely give to others without any expectation of anything in return. It all comes back to you in ways that astound you. My children certainly understand that building communities builds your soul, and that makes me profoundly happy. They've been a witness to a cancer journey full of openness, sharing, and through open dialogue, I'm gathered with Jim or on stage, and of course at home through example and conversation, my family's been an ongoing part of the journey. That will make a significant and healthy difference during the ensuing grieving process, especially since it's being done together. And you've heard me say this before, everything's always better when done together. When the final words are said, I know they will be about love, dreams, respect, simplicity, gratitude, joy, adventure, communication, hilarity, purpose, and most importantly, family. Live, love, laugh, repeat, family first, collect and nurture deep friendships, build community. As you can see in this final post, I adore my wife and children. They are my world, and I will continue to be my world throughout eternity. I believe my spirit will live on in the most simple of ways, like when they listen to Beck play Where It's At, or when they see a fast-moving river, they hear me talk about the sounds of the waves, or how it's higher or lower than usual. Or if they have French fries, mashed potatoes, scallop potatoes, lemon Greek potatoes, roast potatoes, baked potatoes. Well, you get the message. I like potatoes. Each moment and potato will ring a memory, and I'll be there. I believe this is the energy that keeps someone in your heart. Not sure what the next phase really brings, but I certainly believe I'm sticking around in their hearts for eternity. And that's all one can ask for. I have written each of them 5 years of birthday cards. I guess the surprise is out now, kids. While they have each other and family and friends, I want the cards to interject little pieces of joy and delight. Not because I'm concerned with their sadness, but because I've always been focused on the joy. The lesson all along has been to enjoy each day, not by fretting about what bad may come. But I know there will be a void, and there will be grieving, and you can't skip the various stages of grieving. But grief is experienced differently by everyone. And now, this is where I'm going to ask for a favor from the internet and from those of you in the audience. Please be aware of what my family is going through, and know that while it's been a very public cancer journey, I want to protect my family's privacy, their time, and their space. It's my request from the other side that if you were close before, be close again. If you've been cheering us on from afar, please know we appreciate all your good wishes. As an albeit deceased, but protective husband and father, I ask you to give my family space. I have loved receiving the incredible volume of calls, conversations, emails, texts from around the world as a result of this blog. So many great moments of mutual support, recounting memories of lost loved ones, dialogues on mindfulness, and even, surprisingly, a robust interest in unicorns. It's felt good to help others, as they either follow behind me or lead in front of me. I started this blog so my friends could come here to find out, what was going on with me. I knew I'd be asked a lot of questions about my health, and I didn't want to have to always talk about my cancer, so I started writing this blog as a communication tool. But what started as a tool for me ended up being a catalyst for change I wanted to make in society. That is, our inability to look at death and disease. We avert our eyes. We gloss over it completely in the hope that it's not standing right in front of us. And that causes so many problems. So I found a purpose, a deep and unexpected purpose, actually. How do you normalize death and disease so people can be more comfortable with the process and the person? And along the way, the most amazing thing happened. I realized how much I loved writing. It was yet another one of those strange gifts cancer gave me. So now I've helped people and opened my mind to an area of enjoyment that I had never pursued. I even feared it my whole life. Good comes from the strangest places, doesn't it? And now, it's my final post. I want you to know how much my family has appreciated your love and support as we rode through this adventure. Keep being kind to each other. Don't let the negative stories online take up space where nice stories can reside. Put down your phone. Have some deep conversations. Go for a walk. Let Mother Nature feed your soul. Find a way to build a stronger community and enjoy each and every single day to the hilt, because you ain't promised tomorrow. I died today, but I lived fully each and every other day. And that's what counts. Live, love, laugh, repeat, family first, collect and nurture deep friendships, build community. I love you all. Jim.
Jim wanted this day for all of us, but especially for you, Tracy, and you, Jack, and you, Amanda. Jim said it, I don't need to. Will you lead us out? We have some village beer to get into us.